prince the papers used to warn us about when when you're following around Prince William on the Royal Road. Are you going, I don't see that guy anymore. Fight between Prince William and Harry, and the dog bowl I still think about pretty regularly. I'm concerned about the dog bowl. I noticed Camp Sussex hasn't pushed back.
There's always been a sharp contrast inside the House of Windsor, a contrast that today feels more defining than ever. Take the former Prince Andrew. For years, he carried a reputation that followed him everywhere. Pompous, deeply conscious of rank, and intensely protective of his privilege. Entitlement, critics argued, clung to him like a permanent shadow. That perception, whether entirely fair or not, became part of his public identity. Now compare that with the future of the monarchy. Prince William and Princess Catherine. Yes, they live in castles at certain times of the year. Yes, they travel by helicopter. Yes, they vacation in extraordinary places most people could only dream of. But those privileges alone no longer define royal relevance. In today's climate, perception matters as much as position. The modern monarchy, if it is to survive, must be in tune with public sentiment. And that is where William and Catherine's vision appears deliberately different. Again and again, insiders have emphasized their desire for a monarchy that is more accountable and more relatable. Not stripped of tradition, but softened by awareness. Not aloof, but connected. It's an evolution rather than a revolution. And many observers argue it's exactly what the public has been asking for. But it wasn't always clear that Prince William would grow into this role so steadily. In his younger years, British headlines were not always kind. He was labeled the reluctant royal. At times he was portrayed as shy, hesitant, even work-shy wills. Critics questioned his pace. Why wasn't he diving headfirst into royal duty? Why the delay? Yet the deeper story tells something more nuanced. William did not crave instant immersion into palace life. In fact, what he longed for was something far more ordinary, normality. He didn't want to rush into a lifetime of ceremony and obligation without first experiencing the world beyond palace walls. He pursued a military career. Later, when royal expectations intensified, he chose to work as an air ambulance pilot. That decision wasn't rebellion. It wasn't avoidance. It was carefully considered, even discussed at the highest level. William had lengthy conversations with his grandmother, Queen Elizabeth II. She understood the value of life outside the institution. During her time in Malta with Prince Philip, she experienced a rare period of relative normality, a time she cherished deeply. That perspective shaped her advice. She encouraged William to live first and serve fully when ready. So did then Prince Charles. The message was consistent. This is a job for life. Enter it when you can give it your best, without regret. And that is precisely what William and Catherine ultimately did. They embraced their royal responsibilities, not as reluctant figures, but as prepared ones. Their slower entry may have once frustrated commentators, but in hindsight, it seems strategic. Experience forged perspective. Perspective shaped maturity.
Into the royal life, but that's not being accepted because it won't work if you then go off and try and sell.
And public trust fragile, authenticity matters. The contrast between entitlement and earned credibility could not be clearer. One model represents an older understanding of status. The other signals adaptation. And as the royal family faces one of its most turbulent eras in decades, that distinction may define not only individual reputations, but the survival of the institution itself. As Prince William gradually stepped into fuller royal responsibility, another storm was quietly building behind palace walls, one that would eventually erupt into public spectacle. The fracture between William and Prince Harry did not begin overnight, nor was it, as some headlines suggested, a single explosive moment that shattered everything. According to multiple accounts, tensions had been simmering for years, rooted not just in personality differences, but in diverging visions of duty, loyalty, and the monarchy itself. One of the most widely debated flashpoints came from Harry's account of a confrontation between the brothers, an altercation that he portrayed as aggressive and deeply personal. In his version, William arrived angry, forceful, even physical. But as with most royal disputes, there is more than one perspective. Sources familiar with internal discussions described the incident differently. They did not deny that a heated exchange occurred. In fact, they acknowledged that emotions were running high. However, they characterized the episode as massively overblown, a family argument amplified by years of underlying strain. At the heart of that confrontation was not rivalry, but concern. William, according to insiders, had approached Harry over issues related to Meghan's treatment of staff, a matter that both he and Catherine reportedly felt strongly about. Long-serving members of their household had built careers inside a carefully balanced system. When that balance appeared threatened, William saw it as his responsibility to intervene. To Harry, that intervention may have felt like hostility. To William, it was protection of the institution and the people within it. And that distinction matters. In royal history, perception often becomes reality. Harry painted a picture of aggression. Others painted a picture of a brother trying to address mounting internal tensions before they spiraled further. Two versions, two interpretations, one deeply fractured relationship. By 2023, the conflict was no longer private. Interviews, podcasts, documentaries, each added new layers to an already strained dynamic. From across the Atlantic, criticism and revelations landed like what some palace insiders described as grenades tossed into an already volatile situation. For the royal family, it was an exceptionally difficult year. Then came 2024, and with it, a sobering shift in circumstances. The Princess of Wales faced serious health challenges. King Charles III confronted his own medical battle. Suddenly, the narrative of royal discord collided with vulnerability and uncertainty. Observers began asking a quiet but powerful question. Did Harry feel regret? Recent public appearances showed him looking subdued, even deflated. His legal battles against the British government over security arrangements continued. His frustration about not feeling safe, bringing his wife and children to the UK, remained evident. From a personal standpoint, many sympathized with that fear. Yet his own words began to emphasize something new: reconciliation. He expressed a desire to repair relationships. But within palace circles, reconciliation is not merely about sentiment. It requires trust, and trust, once broken publicly, is difficult to rebuild. Those close to William have indicated that certain statements made by Harry crossed lines that feel unforgivable. There was particular pain surrounding how the late Queen was treated during the Sussex's departure, especially the public Instagram announcement outlining their intention to step back from royal duties, accompanied by specific demands. To William, insiders say, these matters should have been handled privately, within the family. Beyond anger, there was also sadness. For a time, William reportedly struggled emotionally with the loss of his brother as a close ally within the royal fold. Catherine, by contrast, approached the situation more pragmatically. If someone did not want to be part of the team, she believed they could walk away. Unity required commitment, and so the divide hardened. What began as tension became estrangement, and what once seemed reparable now appears more entrenched than ever. As the fallout continued, another layer of the story began to surface, one that challenges the narrative that Prince Harry and Meghan were simply abandoned without options. Behind closed doors, discussions were taking place. Conversations were being held. Proposals were being explored. Far from shutting the door completely, senior figures within the royal household were reportedly considering alternative paths for the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, roles that might allow them to maintain meaningful work while easing internal tensions. One particularly
out of the area, and they don't want him to smile. I think that's a bit sort of, you can't stop somebody smiling, and actually
Governor General-style role connected to Canada. While constitutional realities made certain titles impractical, a Governor General must be a Canadian citizen. The broader concept reflected something important. The palace was actively searching for solutions. It wasn't a single option placed on the table. According to insiders, there were multiple proposals, potentially a dozen variations, aimed at finding a workable balance. Some ideas involved expanded Commonwealth responsibilities. Others allowed for a hybrid existence, where Meghan could potentially return to professional pursuits, like acting, while maintaining selective royal affiliations. The message from the institution appeared clear. Flexibility was possible, but within structure. However, structure itself may have been part of the problem. For Harry and Meghan, there was reportedly a growing sense that they were fighting the machinery of a 1,000-year-old institution, an organization where change happens slowly, carefully, often reluctantly. Palace culture is not built for rapid transformation. It is built for endurance, and endurance demands patience. Several senior royal women, including Catherine and Sophie, then Countess of Wessex, were said to have made genuine efforts to support Meghan's transition. The advice was consistent. Integration takes time. Influence must be earned gradually. Nothing inside the palace operates at 1,000,000 miles an hour. Yet tensions persisted. The public narrative increasingly suggested that Meghan had pulled Harry away from royal life, but those familiar with internal dynamics describe a more complicated picture. Harry himself, they argue, had long wrestled with his position as the spare. The hierarchy of the monarchy inherently placed him in a secondary role. While William's path was linear and predetermined, Harry's was less defined. That uncertainty bred frustration. Catherine, according to sources, had long believed it was inevitable that Harry might one day leave. The divergence between the brothers' futures was structural as much as emotional. They were on different trajectories, shaped not only by personality, but by the architecture of monarchy itself. And that architecture leaves little room for ambiguity. The idea of half in, half out, part working royal, part independent global figure, may have seemed attractive in theory, but in practice it collided with constitutional boundaries, public funding expectations, and the monarchy's need for clarity. You are either serving the institution fully, or you are not. That binary reality left little space for compromise. As Harry began building a life in the United States, questions lingered about whether he was still attempting to maintain symbolic proximity to royal identity. Public appearances in the UK for charity engagements sparked debate. Were these personal initiatives, or did they blur the line between independence and official status? The answer depends largely on perspective. What is undeniable, however, is that the emotional cost of this rupture has been profound, not only for the brothers, but for the institution navigating a new and uncertain era. And as the monarchy adapts under mounting pressure, the question remains, can a centuries-old system evolve fast enough to heal internal fractures without losing itself? As the dust settles on years of tension, one unavoidable reality stands at the center of this royal saga. Reconciliation, while publicly desired, remains structurally complicated. Prince Harry has made clear in recent interviews that he wants healing. He has spoken about reconciliation, about rebuilding bridges, particularly with his father, King Charles III. Given the king's advancing years and ongoing health challenges, that desire carries emotional weight. Time, in such circumstances, feels more precious. From a personal standpoint, it is understandable. Britain is Harry's homeland. It is where he grew up, where his identity was shaped, where his children's grandfather resides. The instinct to reconnect is human, but reconciliation within a family that also functions as a constitutional institution is not purely emotional. It is procedural, it is strategic, and it must account for consequence. Those close to Prince William suggest that certain statements and actions crossed lines that cannot easily be erased. The way the Sussex's departure was announced publicly, through social media, outlining demands before internal negotiations were complete, reportedly caused deep frustration. There was a strong feeling within palace walls that such matters should have remained in-house. Beyond procedural grievances, there was something more personal. William, according to sources, felt that the late Queen had been placed in an uncomfortable and painful position during the negotiations surrounding Harry and Meghan's exit. Loyalty to the monarch is central to royal identity. Any perception that the Queen was pressured or blindsided would naturally deepen wounds. And yet, amid anger, there was sadness. For years, the two brothers had navigated public life side by side, united by shared trauma, shared duty, shared visibility. Their bond had once been seen as the monarchy's emotional anchor. The rupture, therefore, was not merely institutional. It was deeply personal. Catherine's approach, however, appeared more measured, described as pragmatic rather than emotional. She reportedly viewed the situation through a team lens. The monarchy functions as a collective enterprise. If someone does not want to operate within that framework, they are free to leave, but they cannot expect to redefine the structure around themselves. It is a logistical stance, not necessarily a cold one. Meanwhile, Harry's life outside the royal fold has produced mixed outcomes. Corporate ventures have faced setbacks. Media partnerships have shifted. Yet one enduring success remains, the Invictus Games. Widely regarded as one of his most significant achievements, the Games continue to symbolize purpose and impact, proof that his contributions extend beyond controversy. Still, there remains a sense that he is searching for something more, a defined role, perhaps, that balances independence with heritage. The idea of returning fully to royal duty appears unlikely. Sources suggest the family, particularly William, would resist it, and whether Harry himself would want a complete reintegration is equally uncertain. What remains possible, however, is limited coexistence. a future where familial ties are acknowledged without institutional restoration. The monarchy is entering what many describe as a new era. Under William and Catherine, accountability and relatability are central themes. Their gradual, deliberate preparation now appears purposeful, positioning them as steady hands amid turbulence. In contrast to the perceived entitlement of previous generations, this new model emphasizes patience, discipline, and earned credibility. The institution has survived crises before. Its resilience lies in adaptation without surrendering its core identity. The question now is not whether wounds exist. They clearly do. The question is whether time, distance, and shifting priorities will eventually soften them, or whether this fracture will remain a defining chapter in the monarchy's modern history. In the end, this story is not simply about sibling rivalry, bruised egos, or competing narratives. It is about the future shape of the monarchy itself, and who defines it. At its core, the House of Windsor is navigating a generational shift. The era of Queen Elizabeth II was defined by continuity, quiet endurance, and an almost immovable sense of duty. That model provided stability for 70 years. But today's monarchy exists in a faster, harsher, more transparent world. Prince William and Catherine appear acutely aware of that reality. Their approach, shaped by patience, delayed entry into full-time royal work, and lived experience outside palace walls, signals a conscious modernization. They are not attempting to dismantle tradition, but to refine it. Accountability, relatability, discipline. These are the themes increasingly associated with their leadership style. And in contrast, the cautionary tales surrounding other senior figures serve as lessons. Prince Andrew's trajectory illustrates how quickly public trust can erode when entitlement appears to outweigh responsibility. His fall from prominence, regardless of legal nuance, reshaped how the institution handles reputational risk. Titles were removed, roles were withdrawn, distance was created. The message was unmistakable. Preservation of the crown comes first. Prince Harry's journey presents a different challenge. Unlike Andrew, his departure was voluntary. He sought autonomy, a redefined role, and freedom from what he described as institutional constraint. Yet disentangling personal identity from royal identity has proven complicated. Titles remain. Public perception lingers. Every appearance, every statement, every visit to Britain invites renewed scrutiny. The notion of a half-in, half-out existence collided with constitutional boundaries. The monarchy cannot function with blurred lines. Either one operates within the system, accepting its discipline and limitations, or one builds a life outside it entirely. Attempts to balance both inevitably generate tension. And yet, this chapter is not purely adversarial. There are human dimensions that transcend institutional analysis. A father undergoing cancer treatment, a brother facing prolonged estrangement, children growing up separated from parts of their heritage. These realities complicate any simplistic narrative of winners and losers. Reconciliation, while difficult, is not impossible, but it would require more than sentiment. It would demand mutual restraint, private dialogue, and a shared understanding that public airing of grievances weakens everyone involved. For now, the monarchy's center of gravity appears firmly anchored in William and Catherine's steady rise. Their emphasis on teamwork, on everyone playing on the same side, reflects a belief that unity is non-negotiable. Catherine's pragmatic outlook underscores that point. The institution is not a flexible startup. It is a centuries-old framework. It evolves slowly. It rewards patience. It expects commitment. As the monarchy moves forward, it is entering what many describe as a defining transition period. King Charles III's reign, shaped by health challenges and generational recalibration, may ultimately serve as a bridge between eras. What follows will likely be clearer boundaries, tighter messaging, and fewer ambiguities about roles. History shows that the crown survives not by resisting change, but by managing it carefully. This moment, marked by estrangement, adaptation, and reflection, may one day be seen not only as a time of fracture, but as the moment the monarchy firmly chose its future direction. And that direction, increasingly, appears deliberate.